Okay, I'm recording this month. I won't mess that one up. Okay, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate everyone being here. We have been doing these CEs for, it's been close to a year and a half now. We do them every Tuesday on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. And we've got...
It might look like this.
And we've got speakers right now planned out clear till October. We always are looking for anybody. If you want to do a presentation, get in touch with me. We'd always love to have some good topics. And we appreciate you taking your time out and joining us and participating. If you are on for CE credit, what we do is at the end of the class, I will give you a code word, and then I will give you a link to the evaluation form. Because we're not live, I can't hand you that evaluation form and you hand it back and we give you a certificate. So I'll give you a Google form, and you can go fill out the Google form, answer the questions, and then I will email you the certificate. It'll take me a couple of days before I email the certificate. It doesn't come automatically because I kind of try to let everybody do that evaluation. So I'm not trying to have to send out 10 different certificates. So it'll be, it usually, honestly, it can be up to about a week, and I'll email you the certificate. I do know I have one person that's still waiting for a certificate, and I think it just got put in their junk box because I'm showing I sent it. But that's how we'll do the CEs, and we'll get you your CEs for that. Please make sure your microphones are turned off, set on mute just in case. And it sounds like we might have two people in the same room. We're getting a little feedback. But we appreciate you joining us today. Today, we've got Kimball and Davee from Life Launch, and they're going to present their model and de-escalation. And I'm excited. I've known about these guys for a long time, and excited about them sharing what they have and letting you learn about that. If you have any questions, if you have any questions, please feel free to just jot them in the chat box. We'll probably go through questions at the end, but if you want to make sure that you don't forget, just throw it in the chat box and make sure we get back to it. And we can go from there. And I think that is really all. Oh, sorry, last thing. I just wanted to point out today, so my name's Michael Dinsmore. I'm with Provo Canyon Behavioral Hospital. And this month we're kind of highlighting our women's program unit that we've got at the hospital. And we've been doing a hybrid women's program with the mental health on inpatient. And that's something, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me and I can answer any of those afterwards. But with that, Life Launch, Kimball, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hey, we appreciate having this opportunity to be able to talk to you guys. I was on a 30-minute training on how to share my screen this morning, and I am digitally impaired. And so it could be that as we talk about being escalated, that I had to use some of the skills right before we got on camera today. We're going to jump right into a presentation. I actually am going to share my screen and do all sorts of things today. So we'll see how this works for us. Oh, here we are. So Davey and I have been at this work for a long, long time, and some of you maybe saw some things about us as you're going along. In our day and age, we're seeing more and more people that are just escalated coming into our offices. I'm not sure if this is one of our in-law brothers and sons-in-law or not, but who knows who this guy is. We have some time-tested strategies that slow down some agitated clients that both of us have used at times. Combined, we have just a little bit of water under the bridge.
Kimball, are you showing your screen yet?
I thought that you were seeing it now.
No, we've got still got everybody on there.
Oh, that's so interesting. Let me try it again because it went right to share screen and pushed it right onto the button, and it. So there's share screen.
Okay.
Are you able to see that?
There, you're up. You're good now.
Okay, we're going to go backwards just a little bit here. So Dave and I have been at this for a good while. Over 70 years. You can tell that we make our decisions about how to handle our leaving hair by me taking it all off and Davey emphasizing where he can still grow it.
All right, go ahead. Now we're ready. Okay, like Jason Peterson.
Between the two of us, we've been in a few different settings. We've worked with parents, little ones. Davey's more on the little ones, and a lot of work with adolescents as we've gone along. Let me go back on that for a sec. Now it loaded really quick. We've been in RTCs, outpatient, acute care hospital settings, a little bit of wilderness, community-based stuff, tracker advocate stuff with juvenile justice. Davey's been in the middle of working with bikers against child abuse and taught at universities and some things that way. So we do have a bit of experience here. And as we've gone along, we've found that there's some things that work for both of us pretty well that we wanted to share today. There are some things that work in pretty much across the board. They'll work in an acute care short-term setting, and they'll work in a long-term residential, and they'll work in outpatient. There's others that don't have a snowball's chance in certain areas of them. So there's just a bit of an introduction about it. With us, we use a model that draws a whole bunch of these general principles that we call the resilience model. And some of you will look at this and say, oh, yeah, I know this. I already use this, but I don't have some fancy little diagram, but most of you are going to be multimodal in your approach. There's so many new therapies coming out and strategies that I've run out of keeping track of all the acronyms. Davey's been kind of quiet to this point in time, but can you tell him why you ended up deciding that this model was something you maybe wanted to fool around with?
Well, I've worked in a lot of different venues, and this model seems to be something that works everywhere that I've been. I wish I'd had it a long time ago to be able to use with addicts, with adolescents, with adults, in marriage situations, with couples, families. It works kind of across the board. So I wish I'd have been equipped with this model years and years ago.
We think this all fits lots of times in an admissions process and in a crisis situation. Davey trained a lot of people in play therapy early on. And were you doing more of your de-escalating of the kid or of someone else?
Of the parents, typically.
If we were going to do a hand raise, how many of you, if you're working with younger clients, end up saying, one of my biggest jobs is trying to slow down a dad or a mom or a stepdad or grandpa or somebody else that way. So as both of us came into this group, I've just been with him for about 1.5 years and Davey just a few months. He's opened a clinic in Orem, about 4th North and State Street. We have a place in West Jordan, about 90 South and Redwood Road, and the original office was down in St. George. We do some virtual stuff with some partners out of Hurricane, Utah, and we also are in Cedar City. Each of these locations, we find that the clients we're working with so often are triggered. And we're going to talk a little bit about this model for a minute or two as you look at this. Triggers hit us from all sorts of ways. Past memory, sensory input, trauma that is now resembling a situation that we're in now, stories in our head of a bad situation that we're now projecting into the future. So we use this model to kind of allow our clients to be more self-aware of things. And we begin by teaching them a little bit of brain science. And rather than talking about frontal lobes, we'll call it the forebrain and the midbrain and the hindbrain. The midbrain ends up being a real crucial component that we want our clients being able to understand. The amygdala, they're two almond-shaped things right in the middle of our brain. They're basically smoke alarms. They're also sonar. They're sending out a signal looking for danger. It's developed to be able to keep us safe. And when that amygdala gets triggered, we're going to have the classic fight, flight, or freeze responses that happen. But if I'm on a trail and I run the I shuffle the Mueller Park Trail out in Bountiful on some trail running, used to run them. There was a cougar that came in on that trail on a friend of mine who had to then try and get back down on his bike from it. And you've seen that video of the guy up in American Fork. Both those situations, they weren't going to be thinking about long-term problem solving as they were encountering a cougar that could be killing them. That could be, it's a life or death model. In our lives, we end up sometimes thinking it's life or death to be up in front of a chalkboard to complete a problem in front of the class, or when some kids are whispering down a hallway, or when I come in and my spouse rolls his eyes and slams down a book and walks into the bedroom. The amygdala doesn't sort out past, present, or future. It just tries to align scary stuff and alert us to keep us safe. When that happens, our body, we start high heart rate. We're sweating. Our hands get cold because we're pulling our body energy all the way into our core issue. And we're getting ready to either take off or to be able to handle that attack as it comes to us. 20-30% of my reasoning is going to be out of the way. And so a client coming to our session escalated is not going to be too much of a great problem solver. As we get emotionally hijacked, we've got to use some distress tolerance skills, which are classic DBT kinds of things to move along with it. If we can identify sensation and emotion, if I can put a number to how angry I am and use a word other than pissed off, if I'm saying I'm really hurt by this instead of I'm pissed, and I'm like it a 20 out of 30, the forebrain will start to re-engage. And so most of us want our clients to be able to calm and slow down and to de-escalate. If I've got stories in my head, if while I'm talking right now, Davey looks over and I see him kind of roll his eyes a little bit, the story in my head can be, Kimball's doing it again. He's going way long. Davey likes me to overtalk in some ways. But the story in my head can be that. And people from stories in their head can get triggered really quickly. We have kids that will end up with a teacher that sighs when they walk into the classroom and they're hijacked the whole day and dysfunctional in their other classes. We have parents, we have other clients that their boss said something to them. And so the stories in our head really is basically CBT skills that we want to focus on. We've tried to use some layman terms for people to be able to use. Of course, now I guess it's lay person's terms or lay them terms or something, but we still all have our stories in our heads as humans. Lots of those stories we can identify and solve and figure out and not be hijacked by them as we go along. Others of them were just going to be a crappy part of life. Radical acceptance would be a DBT skill for that. So this model ends up being one that we teach over a 10-week period of time and focus on different skills each time we go along. But I would think most therapists that are on this call are saying, well, yeah, Kimball, so this is the stuff I do all the time with my clients. And if you are, that's where we would hope that you could focus as you go along. Using an eclectic approach that teaches some brain science and tells them why they're reacting or why they're being impaired or why things aren't working out, we think ends up being crucial for them in terms of how they go about things. And obviously being able to be with people that you're safe with and comfortable with allows you not to be triggered. So many of the kids that we work with make some dramatically scary choices. social media ends up being a real propellant of some real dangerous stuff that gets a lot of people triggered and hijacked as they go along. So that's basically an overview of our model. So we want to talk a little bit about some of the general strategies that we play off with this. And Davey can talk just a little bit about this because he sees me hijacked at times and he can give us some advice this way.
Well, Kimball's seen, heard, and experienced me hijacked. I'm not that good at having a boss. And so he's heard me a few times and helped me learn how to use this model myself and coming to be a part of Life Launch Centers. The part that I really want to emphasize, we're going to kind of save toward the end, why all this matters and the thing that pulls it all together. But there's some key elements to all of this that I think are important. And Kimball's going to show us some of the, I mean, we can talk about some of the cardinal rules with it, but Kimball's going to show us some of the specific techniques that he's developed over years and years and years. And maybe Kimball, if you don't mind, it's not on our outline, but I read the chapter that you wrote in the book that just came out called Milieu about forecasting. And maybe you can talk just a tiny bit about forecasting with groups, with individuals, because I thought that was real valuable.
There are certain clients that you know are going to be coming to your office, or if you're in situations as a first responder or as a school counselor, if you're you can say, you know what, we're getting near the end of the year. Is there going to be some more acting out behavior? Are there going to be some kids that are going to be really wanting to bargain about getting some things taken care of? Are there others just going to check out? Are there others going to be really emotionally upset because they're adjusting to another routine? We know that before holiday seasons that there's more acting out in residential treatment centers. We're finding there's a little more acting out in intensive outpatient when they're coming in for their 3 to 4 days a week. So being able to anticipate that this is going to be a difficult situation is crucial for us. Instead of just like, well, I'm going to walk my way through the day and I think I'll save them for the end. Or how come my groups are always more difficult on Thursdays? Oh, maybe it's because there's a big weekend coming up or there's a graduation. So we can anticipate when clients might be hijacked and when we might end up hijacked. Many of us end up at the end of the month. Well, I've got to get some charting in. I've got to finish these things. I have to do some surveys or some reviews or utilization reviews are hitting all at the same time, or there's a bunch of new admissions that are coming the third week into the school year because that's when the kids' parents are no longer in as much denial about them. There's times where you can predict this. A dad going on a trip with a mom that's pregnant with 2 young kids. Is she going to start getting a little hijacked? Yeah. And if I'm seeing several of those cases in a row, am I going to get some hijacked? So a crucial strategy for us is just knowing when we are hijacked and doing something about it. We've got to slow down. We need some backup. We'll talk some more about it. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, one of the most important things, I think, along with knowing when we ourselves are hijacked and then doing something about that, is being able to recognize the importance of connection. And like I said, I'm going to kind of save that toward the end, the piece where we talk about connection. But I want to emphasize the importance of when somebody's hijacked, when they're acting out, when they're out of control, you got to not argue with them and not confront them. And I think most of us know that. It's kind of a cardinal rule, but gosh, it's tempting to try to get in their face and get in a power struggle with them. And that's never, ever, ever, ever going to work. It hasn't worked since they were born. I've never known even a little infant child that you can get in their face and holler at them to calm down, and it worked. And it certainly doesn't work with young kids and adolescence, and it never worked with me. If I'm upset, my wife tells me to calm down. It does not calm me down. So just try to remember that when somebody's hijacked, when they're triggered, that's not the time to solve problems. That's not the time to argue with them. Solving problem time comes later.
You know, with partners and with parents, there's times where it's like, Davey, you need to get my husband to understand, or I want to bring Sally in early today because she was at school and this happened, and I want you to be my hammer.
Yeah.
And so they're hijacked. Are they going to problem solve? They're not. When we're talking with these people, if we don't have information about their background, we lots of times can get hijacked because it's like, this guy's just a jerk. You know, I can't believe how he's doing these things. And then you find out what the workload is and what he's going through in his life, and maybe his family of origin. For some clients, having them do some multi-generational genograms can be of some real help. I worked with a client, the girl was so frustrated because her mom was ultra paranoid. Well, the mom's mom was even more paranoid because her parents were Auschwitz survivors and had somehow escaped from that. And they were trying to hide from the Nazis killing them off and things. And so when they first moved to the US, she wouldn't let her daughter onto the sidewalk. Well, the daughter's daughter, you know, was still paranoid. And when the teenager realized that mom grew in that kind of an environment, she wasn't as hijacked. And the therapist, being me in the case, wasn't as hijacked by this worrywart person. You know, that's how I was kind of seeing her. So the better we know clients, the less we'll be hijacked by them, and the information we can start to give them to cut themselves some slack. Lots of times they're just pushing uphill and have no idea about that they came to some of this struggle and challenge honestly.
Excellent. Great. So let's continue on. Kimball, why don't you talk about some of the specific things real quick? We're just going to rip through these real quick. Some of the specific strategies, you've got a whole string of them that you can go through.
So some of these will work. Some of these won't. I'm going to pop them all up here, and then I'm going to go back and put myself on screen if this is actually working the way that, Michael, am I actually switching back and forth doing okay? Well, he's just looking. He's not listening to me. I feel hurt.
I'm listening. I put myself on mute just in case someone walks in. So then I got to find the button. Yeah, it is. You're going back.
All right. Okay. So we've got a few objects here that we're going to show you guys. Here, let me get back to Zoom. So you can see us okay. Clients whose brains are a little hijacked and they're not thinking that well, if you ask them to organize some things, hey, could you move that stuff over in the corner and help get this stuff set up so that you and your husband can both sit on the couch? Would you mind moving those things just over to the shelf for me? Or could you pick up those things from the floor and move them over here? Could you grab this thing of pencils here, and could you get those things and get each of your kids some of these pencils? And if you can get them a few of these things here, then you and I can go in and talk while they're working on a couple of things. Just the assignment of somebody doing a concrete task that asks them to organize something can be of tremendous help. Counting for clients can be tremendously successful. We had the parent of one of our clients who does, now, what is it where you go at the back end? I'm forgetting the word right. You know, when you're getting your colonoscopies, she's a nurse that helps set up people for colonoscopies. People are freaked out in those situations. I mean, the camera's going up your back end. So she will have them, as they're laying in the room, count the tiles on the ceiling. They're like, why do you want me to count the tiles? Just count them for me. She'll give them a few minutes to count tiles and come in, and they will have de-escalated in that amount of time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
It can be those ways. Some shuffling of some cards as they're sitting in there. If I'm organizing and I'm just getting those, Davey was with some clients today, and they had 3 kids that are really in some difficulty being taught to play solitaire outside of the session. And that was one of the best things that could happen for that family. Pausing. Just like right now, I'm anxious about filling up this time. But if you can give a 3-4 second pause, Davey's really pretty good at this, where it's like, let me think about this for a second. So let me talk just for that 5-second pause can start to slow down somebody, because they have rapid speech. I don't have to have rapid speech. I can take a break for just a second as they go along. Breathing is the same thing. We all naturally do the in fact, I need to take a couple of deep breaths. This is pretty heavy stuff you guys are talking about. I'm anxious about doing this presentation, Davey.
Breathe, Kimball. Breathe.
Breathe. A lot of you that have been either talented therapists or do box breathing or another kind of a breathing as they go along. I like box breathing because I'm doing some counting and I'm doing some breathing. And I'm propelling them some ways to combine some skills that are going to get their brain back online for some problem solving. Milton Erickson was a brilliant strategic therapist who taught one of my mentors and colleagues, Jared Balmer. And when we were in an acute care hospital situation, working with some kids there, I learned that when I came into the room that I could sit in different ways. And I'm going to ask Davey to kind of have this camera looking at me. I'm not sure that you'll be able to see all of this, but you can have that camera kind of look towards me. He would come into a room, just move the screen so they can see me. He'd come into a room in an acute care hospital, a kid was escalated, and sit like this by the door. I thought, well, that's cool. If I'm sitting like this and things aren't that all intense, I don't look that way. There's some mirroring that can happen as I'm sitting here and just kind of, you know, how you guys doing? This looks pretty intense. If I come into the room and I'm, you know, on hyper alert, that's just going to move them. Being able to look calm, even with your heart rate might be going pretty fast, is crucial for a lot of the kids that we work with and the adults that we work with. Parents that come into an office and they want you to get escalated with them, or a couple that's that, and you're leaning in, they need to see you. Man, this sounds intense. David does a nice job of quietly listening. And as he's taking his time and pausing, they end up being able to slow down. Writing for clients ends up being a great way for them to do some things. Could you write down like the 3 top things that you think that you know, they're just kicking your butt right now? What would the top 3 be? You know, just put them onto this card for me. And you hand them a pencil and you hand them a piece of paper. As I'm doing that, my amygdala basically can't be saying danger, danger, danger all the time. It's basically saying, oh, I got to get some of my front part of my brain doing some thinking stuff, because you don't solve unless you're online that way. Fidgets, if you want to show a few of the fidgets we have in our offices here. Some of you have these. This can be a fidget for them. Play-Doh. Some of you have some really cool things on your desks with little puzzles. The puzzle thing for some people, I think it gets them a little hijacked in that. I can't get that frickin' ring through that other ring and hook it into the side of it. But some people working on that thing just are in that much better shape. If I'm having to manipulate some objects, if I'm rating some stuff, if I'm organizing some things, that can happen. This is a tough one, maybe, you know, while you're out there, I want you to draw your family for me. So this was a kid that drew their family for me. There in the middle. How do you think they're feeling? But as they drew that, they were less hijacked as they were in there. This is another kid that did a family drawing. These don't take that long for somebody to be able to do. They can tell you some stuff pretty quickly about some birth order and the power that's going on. If somebody's really hijacked and they can draw, that's a great way for them to go. This one's a really tough one. This kid just did not have a voice for some terrible trauma that had happened in their family. Is now doing really, really well. But it was like, is this what's going on? And they did not have words, but they had this. And as they had to engage and think through this, things changed for them as they go along. Music. Sometimes it's like, you know, we do this thing with our kids in group. Where's the, you know, some of you have these tones. Before we talk, I wanted you just to hear those tones. Keep your eyes closed. And when you're no longer going to hear that vibration, I just want you to raise your hand. So we're borrowing this stuff from yoga and from some other things as we go along, but why not use as many of these kinds of things to be able to slow down a brain and to re-engage them and to do some other things. Movement, I particularly like movement. If you go to Sandhills, it's a great treatment center down in the Albuquerque area. They talk a lot about, you know, EMDR kinds of things, the bipodal tapping and some things that way. They find with younger kids, if they're walking, they're just one foot after another, and they're keeping a rhythm, and you kind of have them march with you, will de-escalate. You know, let's get out of my office for a second. Can we just walk down the hallway and let's talk, or let's just go outside? I've been stuck in my office for a chunk of the day. You okay if we just kind of walk down the street for a little bit and back to the office? I mean, that might not always work, but in the situations in where you're providing support to clients, but walking is a really powerful way for them. It can get them going in the senses. There are times when somebody is just really amped up, where it's like, I really need to give you some better attention with this. This is probably going to take me a little bit longer, but I need to get a couple things set up with our receptionist. So can you give me a couple minutes so I can get those things organized? In the meantime, you know, you might want to rate these things for me or this or that. But sometimes I need to be disengaged because they want me, they need me as material. Does that make sense? You know, I need somebody to fight with, and you're the next victim. So let's get this going. So sometimes just going that. Grandparents can be sometimes really powerful. I had a client recently who just attacked her mom on a regular basis and loved her grandma. And so her mom would basically say, I'm getting hijacked. I'm having a tough time. Samantha's all right. I'm going to call grandma to get me some help. Don't call her right now. And she said, I'm going to put her on speaker. All of a sudden, this kid would just, hi, grandma. Sometimes having somebody else come into a session that they have a positive connection with can really change things, or getting them on the phone, or having them pull a picture of that person out of their phone, or seeing that in a family album, some things that way. Could you bring in a couple of pictures of your childhood for us? Could you do this? they do some sensory kits and stuff at a program for adults with pornography addictions, and they'll often have people that they love in kind of a survival kit, and we'll pull up those pictures for them. Sometimes just in a session when somebody's agitated, hey, could you show me a picture of your little brother? Because they love their little brother. Their parents are the spawn of the devil. But with a kid, they want the other thing to happen. So that can be a way to end up changing their perspective. We use 1 to 10 scales. They're a check-in and check-out for our kids each time they come into their groups, and they check out and give us another scale. People that can't talk, where are you in terms of your anger from 10 being that you're about at the atomic level and 1 being that nothing's really getting to you at all? Where are you today? Adolescents, lots of times just giving a 1 to 10 thing opens the door for you to get something out of it. Reframing, and David will talk some more about this. Reframing basically lots of times is, so all of this stuff's going on and you were still able to get here today? That's pretty remarkable. There's a kid in our waiting room today, and I asked her, I said, how you doing? She goes, it's a crappy day today, Kimball. And I said, compared to 2 years ago, how is it? She goes, well, it's way better than 2 years ago. Sometimes they have to have a different perspective on things, or see things in another way, or understand that grandma was paranoid about this stuff because she's an Auschwitz survivor. That stuff can be there. Being 1 down when clients are really on our case is crucial. You know what? This is a tough one. I need to take some time to think through this. You all right if Davey and I talk through this a little bit, or I bring him in? You know, Davey, this one's puzzling for me. Have you been through this kind of a thing before? Suddenly it's like, oh, they're interested in me. They're doing more than just some person trying to pull a solution out of their butt on the, I guess I'm into butt stuff today. I better change my stuff a bit. Food and water. Some of our clients come in and they're hangry. Have some stuff for them. Ask them when the last time that they had any food or they drank. So depressed, I'm not doing anything. Let's go over the water cooler and get some water right now. Can you at least drink some of this with me? Sometimes by them drinking, they have to slow down. They can't be blasting away, be all verbally aggressive. And then many of you know the classic distress tolerance skills of progressive relaxation and things that way. So those are some things that we wanted to suggest for you. Many of you probably already doing them, but look around your office. If you're right there today, wherever you're watching this, look around there. Is there something right in your office or that room that you're in that would be of interest to share with somebody? You know, could you pull something off of your phone to have them see? Davey is a great photographer, and he'll get a client slowed down. This reminds me a little bit of when I went up on this mountain to take this photo. That's kind of how it feels like for me when you're walking up this path. Being a divorced mom and now having a stepkid that you weren't expecting back in the house, that's kind of like that cliff over there. You know, metaphors for them end up being helpful. So we've kind of shot through some of these techniques here. We want to now spend some other time on how to de-escalate escalated clients here.
Well, and I think I want to really emphasize kind of why we're doing all this. When you just want to reach out and touch someone, borrow from the old telephone commercial, like with a chair to the back of the head, it's important for us all to remember why we're doing this work to begin with, and to remember that our connection to the client is what makes all this stuff work. That's the secret sauce, as it were, to de-escalating any client in any situation. If they feel connected to us, then we're going to be able to use these skills and any others that you might have to help them come back down and get their frontal cortex back online and help them be able to respond instead of react to whatever the trigger was. So it's important for us to remember why you're doing this work and to practice enough self-care that you don't let resentment build. Sometimes when you have a bunch of difficult clients in a row that are hijacked, it's easy to get some resentment that builds up, and you kind of forget why you got into this field to begin with. And it's profoundly important for us to connect with each other, talk with each other, and remind each other why we do this work in the first place. To help each other remember that our clients are most often wounded people, and they struggle with problems that are very difficult for them. And we're there as helpers to try to assist them. And that's why we do this work. That's why you guys are here on this call and taking time out of your schedule to listen to Kimball and I today. Just share some ideas, most of which you probably already know and probably already practice, but give us the chance to kind of bring some of them together for you on this call today. It's important for us to remember, I think, that the greatest thing that we can do for any of them is to join them in what their struggle is. I think if I've learned anything from working with very young children, it's that what they need is for us to walk with them in going through whatever the struggle is that they're going through. We can't fix it for them. We can't solve all their problems. But what we can do, especially with adolescents, young adults, little kids, is we can walk with them as they're going through whatever it is that they're going through. If they perceive that we're with them, we're going to be able to help them. When somebody's escalated, if an adolescent is just flipping out, and you've got somebody like you right there with them saying, it's okay, I got you, it's okay, I got you. And maybe appropriately put an arm around your shoulder or a hand on the back, just saying, I got you, it's okay, it's all right, it's okay. And they start to feel like, okay, I got somebody who's right here with me that can help me handle this situation. I'm not alone in this. I don't have to panic. Got somebody else here. When they perceive that they're not alone, that they have a connection, they're going to be okay. And I think remembering why we're here, why we're doing this, is the key to de-escalating somebody who's escalated.
Breathing, in some ways, I think we're talking about love. I think that if you go through a week of providing therapy and support to people and you don't cry at one point or another during that time with at least a tear or two for their pain or for their joy or for something else, you're probably not going to have those connections. A lot of stuff, like, I've never let, the old Freudian thing was you're out of the picture. We end up being sometimes the most accurate mirror for them as to how humans can care about them and listen to them and advocate for them. Lots of them come out of these broken families where they don't have any chance of seeing how that works. Neither of us is proposing that we become their best friend or their mom or their dad, but we are proposing that we become a deep support to them. I saw Jennifer Morgan Smith had a chat that said relationship is everything. And the research about relationship is very compelling. The Heart and Soul of Change, which is a great book. If you're a therapist, you want to look at strategies for change. They did some meta surveys looking at DBT and Rogerian stuff and CBT and all sorts of other therapeutic strategies. And the most compelling factor in helping a client to change was a therapeutic alliance, a healthy connection where you have a good-hearted, deep concern for their well-being. If they don't get that from you, some of it could be because you're so exhausted. And the caseloads that we have and the intensity of the clients, in our experience, both of us are seeing more and more kids at higher levels of pain and disconnect than we've ever seen. We're in an IOP and we're regularly getting referrals of kids that are recently out of an acute care hospital where, you know, maybe they tried to overdose on Lexapro and it was a pretty lethal thing. And a week later, they're suggesting an IOP. Those ended up being the kids that were rare in an RTC 20 years ago. And so taking care of ourselves in this toxic of an environment is so crucial. That love that you get back from a client can help to fill that bucket a little bit. Davey asks his clients, particularly those with addiction issues, the same question a couple of times. I wanted you to maybe pass that on to them as we're finishing up, you know, that who you are, kind of who you want.
Yeah, I think I'll just share this with everybody for yourselves, but also recommend that it's a question to ask, particularly adolescents and adults. I think the most important question any of us can ask ourselves and have our clients ask themselves is, what do you want? I think everybody grows up being taught what they need to do, should do, ought to do, got to do, have to do, going to go to hell if you don't do, all that stuff. But whoever really talks to you candidly about what you just want. And I think helping people identify what they want helps them figure out what their values are and helps them get connected to those and get connected to their authentic selves.
There's a couple other slides here. They're like, thank you, and some things about the programming things, but this is probably the time to field a few questions. We're kind of wrapping up, or if there were any chat comments that you've noticed in there. Mr. Dinsmore.
Can you show the slide of the general strategies real quick? And yeah, if anybody's got any questions, if you want to unmute yourself and ask, or if you're going to be a little bit more shy and just want to type in the chat box.
Screen sharing has failed to start. Please try again later. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Okay.
Hey, Ben, I know you're on there. Can you see that question on Cedar City contact number?
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, but Ben probably, is he just replying in the chat?
I don't know. He didn't respond to any previous questions. Ben, is he sitting at his computer or did he walk off?
Mike, this is Arden. If they just call that regular number, the 833-803-3883, that will ring to the person you want to talk to for possible admit or just information.
Thanks, Arden.
You bet.
What was the name of the book you mentioned? This was a question.
The Heart and Soul of Change. if Jennifer's on, is that the right title, Jennifer? Heart and Soul of Change, I believe is what it is. It's about chapter 4 or 5 has the meta study about what really works in therapy and emphasizes the therapeutic alliance.
I don't know that book, Kimball,
Okay.
but it sounds like a good one. I like the title.
Yeah.
John threw a link on it.
Oh, yeah, look.
It's a big fat one, but it's a good book. Some of the chapters I couldn't get through, but the one on therapeutic alliance and the comparison of the different ways of helping change happen, it just brought it all together. You know, if they know you care, then you can get some stuff done with them. It actually pissed off some of the guys at the Ericksonian conference who thought that their stuff was, Mike and Baum and Ellis were kind of mad that they were saying that their stuff was just as, wasn't all that, wasn't better than everybody else's. They have kind of like the Olympics every 4 years at a Evolution on Psychotherapy conference that's held down in Anaheim. Other questions?
While they're thinking of that, we'll make sure. So if anybody needs to get off, I'm going to type right now the code word and everything for CE credits. And even if you don't want CE credits, please go to the evaluation. And if you're wanting a copy of the recording or anything else, go leave me your email there. And I can send any information to you that way. But there's the code, and give me 1 second. Let me copy and paste the link. And there's the link. And this is, I know we have issues with Google Forms. This is a Google form, so sometimes your firewalls may be locking you out of it. You may have to copy it and send it to yourself. Or if you'll email me, I'll send you the link and you can get into it. But again, there's the link. Please fill out the evaluation forms. We can get comments. We're trying to always find out what topics you want to get. I am trying to get another suicide class. I know that's some credits that are needed. I'm also hearing ethics is another one. So those are some other ones that we're trying to get. Yeah, let me.
While you're looking at that on screen there, we've developed an app, which is just kind of a web-based,
You're not on screen, Kimball.
Yeah, but can you see the screen?
No.
Oh.
No, you're not sharing.
All right. Let's see if it'll happen here again. Hope it's not going to tell me later again.
It's showing up now. Now just get to the right slide. Yep.
Let's see if it'll show it. So we do groups, but we also have a 10-minute videos that are tied in with lesson plans that are used in some schools and some treatment centers. We also have some webinars and things that we provide. We have an app that we've just developed that we're just beta testing with our own clients, which really is just our workbooks that we use each week. They have those check-in sheets like we're talking about. They have a list of distress tolerance skills that they can there's a journal piece, and you literally can track your check-in. So over time, I do a check-in about every week. Anxiety and sadness end up being the ones that are higher for me. Some of it's with a brother-in-law with some cancer that's not being treatable. Anxiety, sometimes it's from being in situations like that, and with the clients that we all work with nowadays. I'm higher that way. And I think sadness sometimes is just for some of the incredibly broken families. So we're working hard to see if we can't have some of these materials more and more available to the general public. There's a lot of experts that are participating in this call, and our services are more and more needed. So thanks for what you do and for the heavy lifting that so many are doing.
So true. I know you guys are all experts compared to me. Thank you, Kimball and Davee. Is there any other questions? We don't want to leave anybody out. If you do have a question, if you have a comment.
We had one other question of what was the book, Forecasting?
Oh, that book is called Milieu, but it's the making of a therapeutic environment. And if you put the name Balmer in with that, it's Target has it, Amazon does it. My name's in there too. We, over the years of working in milieus, we realized that there were several patterns. And so we came up with solutions after we made lots of mistakes. And so one is weather forecasting. There's another one that talks about feed a leader and starve a rogue. How much of your attention is going to the rogue versus the leader. There's other pieces about staffing patterns and how to manage that, how to do a decent progression from level to level that doesn't end up getting too much favoritism. So that book was a labor of love from about 3 decades of suffering.
And that was Making of a Therapeutic Relationship?
Environment.
Yeah.
I should know the title myself, don't you think?
I think so. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for attending. We'll be back again in 2 weeks for another class. What's this? Yeah, June 14th. We'll be doing another one on June 14th, and I'll get invites out for that. But did everybody get the evaluation link? Is it working okay for everyone? Okay, good. I see a couple of nods. Questions, comments, jokes? Megan, on links, did you get an email this morning or last week, or did someone forward it to you? If you'll send me an email, I will add you to our little subscription, and I'll make sure you get added to that. Again, we'll just want to make sure firewalls aren't blocking it. But yeah, send me an email and I'll get it to you. If you fill out the evaluation, that's one way you can get me your email, and I will definitely send a link through the evaluations for the next class, that is.
There was only one other thing we were going to do, and we'll save it for another time. We're going to show you the Disney office that we have here, because sometimes your situation, your office can actually agitate a client. With one therapist and her whole office is Disney.
And pink.
That freaks out Davey. Other people like,
it's all pink.
If any of you are still on it, you want me to show it to you?
I was going to say, also take a picture of it and send it to me, and I'll send it with the CE credits when I send the certificates.
All right. This is our group room. We just have a few little offices. Let's see if she's still in here. So here's.
Oh my gosh.
You're being invaded.
See that?
This is Lisa.
It's not that bad.
So as you're looking at that, does that de-escalate or escalate your client?
Oh, okay. Thanks.
And look what this is a person that knows how to have fidgets and keep people tied in. So anyway, there's your little tour, you guys. Sorry, Lisa. I did warn her.
That brings me depression. I want to go to Disneyland. And then the anxiety of standing in line and the crowds.
So I hope they're going to get people seasick. But thanks for your time, you guys.
Thank you very much.
See you guys.
All right.
Go enjoy some sun.
Yeah.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, Jen.
Bye.
Bye, Jen.
See ya.